Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on the Maruka Isles playing as the forces of Greenskins against the forces of Chaos. And when I say Greenskins, I mean the Green Horde of Gobos that is led here by the courageous Goblin Great Shaman on his fine wolf steed. So obviously, a bit of a silly build. Maruka Isles is a fairly compact map, so I figured, we might be able to pull it off. But obviously, goblins, they're great against Chaos. There's just nothing Chaos can bring. Chaos doesn't have great tools to slaughter cheap infantry. They totally don't have big monsters that cause fear and terror. And obviously, they don't have any tools like Final Transmutation to snipe lords. So, what could go wrong with a goblin build? Well, probably a lot. But for my lord here, I'm running the Goblin Great Shaman, who is, as we mentioned before, mounted on a wolf. Not much to be said for him. He's a dirt cheap lord choice, but more importantly, he's got some pretty good spells. We did bring Gorkle Fix-It to control my opponent's mobility, Itchy Nuisance, of course, for the debuff to enemy melee attack, Vindictive Glare, and Sneaky Stab It. And of course, we do have Sneaky Steal, debuff enemy wounds of magic, Evasion, Wah, and Arcane Conduit. So a whole bunch of decent sort of improvements. Our front line is composed entirely of Night Goblins, with this flank over here covered by the Warlord's Boys, who have Armor Sundering and Immune to Psychology, and the 8 Peak Loonies, who are the Regiment of Renown Fanatics Immune to Psychology, or sorry, Unbreakable, and so they're pretty cool. Now, otherwise, this build is in many ways similar to what I ran against the Vampire Coast a few casts ago. For our firing line here, we do have a whole bunch of Night Goblin Archers, 4 units of them, backed by the Rusty Arrows to provide that Armor Sundering debuff. We also do have a small skirmishing force with the Moogram's Marauders in there for AP, as well as the Death Creepers to sort of get that regen and poison and harass. And then obviously give us a bit of a counter to enemy skirmishers. We also do have quite a few nasty skulkers. There's a single unit over here, another unit all the way out here, and one in the center. And then finally a 4th unit covering our artillery park all the way in the back. And I figured you want more nasty skulkers against Chaos because obviously you really need that AP. Plus, there's potentially a lot more stuff to control with Smoke Bomb because Chaos tends to have a lot more mobile troops, and especially if they go for a kite heavy build, which is not that rare against Greenskins with Wah. We did chevron up a few of these nasty skulkers just to keep them in the fight a little bit better. The improvement to leadership is pretty significant. These guys you can see over here on 51 leadership compared to these guys on 41, which is huge. Finally, in artillery park, 2 Doom Divers as well as the Hammer of Gork, providing some good old Overwatch and AP damage. The Doom Divers, not necessarily the most amazing against heavy Chaos Infantry, but they'll still whittle them down over time, and they're very precise. And the Rock Lobber, of course, will be providing some additional AP. It's one of the reasons I decided not to go with Triple Doom Diver here, because there is just so much more armor and Chaos puts on the field. Now for my opponent, he decided to go with a very wide, pure melee build for his Lord to strip down Sir Throil. Obviously very tanky against my missile play, which is going to be an issue. He's got a lot of HP, cause fear, terror. He's got Rust, Final Transmutation, and Arcane Conduit. Surprisingly, no Searing Doom, which I think is really good, but I don't know. Probably couldn't afford it. For his front line, my opponent does have 3 units of Chaos Warriors backed by 2 Marauders on either end, giving him some extra width and some stopping power against big, heavily armored infantry like Black Orcs. Not necessarily what I would suggest if you're trying to go toe-to-toe with the Greenskins with Wah, but definitely they can do some damage, especially with the Giant mixed in, which is an interesting choice. The Giant kind of not very good, I would say, but we will see how he performs here. Obviously, he does have monstrous AP damage, and he does cause fear and terror, which Greenskins do not have fun time with. Over here though, Chaos Knights. My opponent did bring 2 of them, and one of them is about to pile into these poor Night Goblins over here who are running for dear life, and we get to see that glorious charge completely get stopped by a Smoke Bomb. And now they're in on these nasty skulkers and getting pounded by artillery. So these Chaos Knights here, thinking they were all clever, thinking they were all cool, all of a sudden getting debuffed and shot to death by Goblin arrows to their backs, as well as rocks being flung. And these guys are just getting slaughtered. You can see they're getting torn apart by artillery fire, torn apart by Doom Divers, and harassed by Skulkers, who are quick enough to keep up with them when they're smoke bombed. Especially when they're smoke bombed and poisoned from the Goblin Archers. Elsewhere, in the meantime, though, the front lines are about to clash. I did forget to mention my opponent did bring a Hell Cannon, and it's got a Marauder Escort here in the back. The Hell Cannon is teeing off and has done a little bit of damage here to my nasty Skulkers. It's definitely going to be a bit of a nuisance over this course of this game to get to my squishy mob. That said, the Giant over here did take a smack in the face from Vindictive Glare, and now he is being peppered down by crossfire from all these Night Goblin Archers. Over here, the Chaos Knights do try to pile in, but they get stopped. One of the cool things is the Braced Infantry gets a buff to mass, and so they were able to stop that charge from the Chaos Knights. My opponent didn't aggressively push through onto my Archers, and that is going to be a big issue. Now these Chaos Knights are being harassed. They do try to pull away, but we do have our troops on point. Our Death Creepers, as well as Moogram's Marauders, are on point. These guys are smoke bombed. They're down to 7 speed, so literally crawling, slower than zombies. That's how enfeebled their horses are right now. That's how confused they are. They're getting torn apart. Elsewhere, these Chaos Knights over here still being pounded by, by artillery play. Apologies there. And these guys just getting torn apart. You can see the crazy goblins just flying in and knocking some of those guys off their horses. So definitely some rough stuff. With Wa, despite the fact that the frontline fight looked very uneven, we've actually managed to win a flank here. So that is very important for us as the Greenskins. We're going to be able to pull in and slaughter these Marauders. And also remove these Chaos Knights from play, which is going to be a big win. You can see the bounce of power already shifting in my favor. In the meantime, although my opponent is crushing the line here, the Warlords boys buckling, they still lasted a very long time, and the Chaos Giant got absolutely pounded into oblivion by Mass Goblin Archer Fire. As my opponent does breach the front line here, he is being crossfired, and of course, because poison is the way of life for the Goblins, literally all of these Chaos Warriors being debuffed down to 22 speed, and so though my opponent has won that front line fight, it is a bit of a Pyrrhic victory already, because the fact of the matter is he just cannot keep up. He can't catch my Goblins. My Goblins are way too quick. Even the Archers, they've got 35 speed, which is far too fast for Chaos Warriors, even normally, to catch. And he's only really got Sarthorael. One of his Chaos Knights is still around kicking over here on about 2/3 of its HP, but besides that, his mobility is very limited, and because of that, we're going to be able to abuse it and sort of harass these guys, pound them with the prison shanks and the nasty skulkers, harass them with archery fire, and just whittling them down over time and really reducing them to dust. These Chaos Warriors over here pouring through, but over here, this big pocket trapped on top of these nasty skulkers and the AP Cloonies, just tying everything down. And over here, the nasty skulkers are forcing a breach and chasing after the Hell Cannon. Over here, my opponent is about to, or I think he already perhaps did cast. He did cast something here. Or I cast Oracle Fix It to control the Knights, keeping the Knights trapped in position and sort of harassed. My opponent actually did try a Final Transmutation on like Goblin Raid Shaman, but not Overcast. It really didn't do that much damage to him, surprisingly. He seemed to hold it out pretty well, and you can see he's still okay on HP. I think he only lost about 400. And you can see the Chaos Knights here just getting torn apart by that withering hail of fire from the Goblin artillery pieces. And although they do manage to push through here, and they are going to be pressuring my Goblin Great Shaman before I manage to pull him away, obviously they've got very high charge bonus, and he has almost no armor, so this is a very bad situation for him to be in. But we are able to escape, and you can see the harassment squad just applying the constant stream of pressure to the Knights. And as they try to pursue, we are going to intercept them with the Night Goblins. We're going to get that fire going, and they're going nowhere. And now the Chaos Knights are trapped and crossfired and screwed. Now, elsewhere, the Giant has returned. You can see the Flame Cannon, or the Hell Cannon, now offline, getting torn apart by nasty skulkers in close quarters. My opponent should have pulled it off at that point, but I guess he was too busy microing over here. And as my opponent's Chaos Warriors close in on the artillery pieces, we're going to throw in the Warlords boys to bog them down and run away with the crew, because we're goblins, so we don't care. We're just going to intercept these guys and prevent them from escaping. They're being armor sundered, harassed, and torn to shreds, and now the Chaos Knights here are going to get run down by Goblin Cavalry. So, all while being harassed by that artillery fire. Just some brutal stuff. Another guy goes down. Really some nasty, sneaky stab in there. Now over here, I do try Vindictive Glare on Sarthorael, and it actually does very little, which was surprising. And I think perhaps, and I might have to test this, but missile resistance might actually make you resistant to magic missiles. I might have to try it out against Mortar sometime. But regardless, Sarthorael here, obviously he's very near immune to the fire from my Goblin Archers. They're going to be doing like 4 or 5 damage-ish, not even. Probably like 2 or 3 damage a shot to him. But it does add up over time, and there's just so much fire pouring in. Now he's armor sundered, so he's really getting whittled down despite the kill counts. And here in the pits, the Chaos Infantry has finally swung this flank. They have finally killed off my unbreakable troops. But the Giant getting shot to death by the Skirmish Cav. Marsh kind of sitting here looking pretty. And the Hell Cannon crew now taken offline. So my opponent in a very, very bad spot. Getting peppered down from all sides. These guys are raising their shields, but it's not really going to help you if you're getting shot from the side. So they're getting torn apart. And over here, Sarthorael does manage to rout off my nasty skulkers before they get a smoke bomb off, so definitely a little unfortunate. But here, with the artillery park just pounding at these guys at point blank, the Goblin barely takes off, and then kind of curving down to smash into that Chaos Warrior, cut him in half, and we're able to just bog these guys down and start taking him to Pound Town. And it's really must have been pretty frustrating for my opponent here, because he's just constantly getting poisoned and harassed and barraged. Another Goblin plowing in, taking down a few more Chaos Warriors, and of course the leadership penalties are starting to stack up. Their HP is very low. Another Chaos Warrior that gets decapitated by a Goblin, and now the Skulkers are in, and at this point, balance of power is pretty decisively in my favor. My opponent is trying to chase after my archers here. Sarthorael, of course, still very healthy, and he is completely unbreakable, so potentially could be an issue. But the Chaos Marauders getting torn apart, getting chopped up by the Death Creepers, by the Mogres Mangy Marauders over here. The Chaos Marauders in very grim shape. The Giant down to 200 HP. And Sartorial here running amok. But our Nasty Skulkers here actually escaped the Marauders because my opponent wasn't paying attention, which is a big win for me. And although Sartorial does get in here, we do snare him with our Nasty Skulkers. Now both he as well as these Chaos Warriors are actually, we didn't get the Chaos Warriors, but he's snared. Over here, we can see I'm using my Doom Divers to target the Giant. And we are going to see a glorious charge here from the Goblin Great Shaman charging in on his wolf. Just this little guy charging in there, brave as can be. And he swings his saber and just brings his Giant now down, slashing him across the tendons there. And the Giant does fall. So a glorious victory for Goblin kind. And then we immediately scamper off like a complete coward. But that was a cool little victory there. Managing to kill off the Giant. Obviously, Giants have almost unbreakable leadership. I think they've got like 100 leadership. So unless you get a full surround and are doing some serious leadership breakage, they're not almost never going to break. And definitely not going to break for good. Over here, Sartorial does manage to get on top of my cavalry because it was slaughtering these Marauders. But in the meantime, the Chaos Warriors kind of just giving up on life. They're trying to catch me, but there is so much pressure coming in from all these Doom Divers and the Archers and the Poison and the Hammer of Gork now coming back online. Going to be able to start lobbing rocks at these guys. And at this point, my opponent's army is basically Sartorial and a few Chaos Marauders that he forgot about. There's this one very healthy unit over here on about 81 models, one completely slaughtered unit in the back on 17. The Chaos Knights are still around, but they're not really going to be able to hold up leadership-wise. And my cavalry now is going to be able to start surrounding and slaughtering these Chaos Marauders. And you can see we're picking them off one by one, diving in, encircling, and breaking them. The Chaos Knights actually, well, they're just in, I don't know if my opponent completely forgot about them. He does notice them here now. They are pulling back in. Chaos Knights look so darn cool, but their leadership does not hold, and they rout 7 models, only 300 HP, so not much they can do. And Sartorial at this point getting bogged down by Nasty Skulkers. And you can see the chevrons here making a difference. Chances are, if I didn't have the chevrons in these guys, they would potentially tear out at this stage. Though these guys they're holding strong without chevrons, so maybe not. Maybe I'm lying. Maybe I'm talking out my rear. But Sartorial nonetheless getting torn apart by that Withering Fire. We do manage to wrap these Marauders. And at this stage of the game, it is clean up in aisle 9. We're just wrapping up the last few loose ends here. A few Chaos Marauders here and there. A few Chaos Warriors. We still have some Nasty Skulkers around and kicking. Very small unit. We have a very healthy unit over there, actually. Artillery's still online. Our Archer's still online. We actually get hit with a Plague of Rust here, but it just doesn't matter. As we approach these Chaos Marauders, army losses kicks in. Sartorial's HP finally does tank low enough, and that is going to be GG for the Green Tide. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say this build is the most competitive. Greenskins, well, the Goblin's not the best way to go against Chaos, in my opinion. If my opponent had gone with, say, a more mobile build, we would probably suffered a lot. If my opponent had gone with a more elite infantry build, perhaps this would have also been an issue, especially if there were like a Shield of Chosen in there or two. We would have been able to do just about nothing, and it would have been probably pretty disastrous. But, excuse me, as it stood, we were able to hold up and do pretty well. Now, one of the interesting things that happened was that there was a lot of friendly fire, so I'm kind of curious to see just how much friendly fire was done by the Goblins. And we are going to calculate that now and find out just how much we managed to, how many of our own guys we managed to kill with our own artillery, because that was happening a lot throughout this game. And while of these losses, 927 losses, obviously a lot of that was probably not done by Chaos. So we are going to try to figure that out just now and find out just how wonderful it must be to be a Goblin. So, fun fact of the day, guys, there were 80 friendly fire casualties this game. Surprisingly less than I expected. But, doing a quick calculation here, I perhaps missed something, but running it through the calculator real quick, I do believe I got all the numbers in there. And it looks like my opponent actually did not kill 80 of the Goblins there. So friendly fire definitely a big factor, but honestly it just doesn't matter because they're Goblins. And we're killing Chaos Warriors, Chaos Knights, that sort of stuff. And that's usually the units that were being targeted when friendly fire was a thing. As for the build goes, if you're looking to do Goblin build, I think this is decent. Your Archers give you a lot of sting power against the big single models. Obviously it doesn't look too impressive, but a lot of these kills were against units like the Giant, against Chaos Knights, against Chaos Warriors. And those are just units you can't really expect your Goblins to do the most amazing damage against, but at the same time, they're very valuable units. Doom Divers, of course, 42, 32, 22 on the Hammer of Gork, which spent about a quarter of the game or third of the game running away from enemies. So definitely a good achievement there. Obviously, once again, these kills were mostly against those very important targets because these got high Goblin kill counts were mostly against Chaos Marauders and mostly against my opponent's trash troops. And it was really the archery mobs and the artillery that was dealing the killing blow to all these elites. But yeah, a lot of fun, a fun build, an entertaining build, I think. For my opponent's build, I think the main... I don't... So while it wasn't necessarily a bad build against what I brought here, I do think that you're better off going very mobile or very tanky. I think this was a weird hybrid that doesn't really fit either situation. Because I feel like you either want to go with just Chosen and try to go toe-to-toe with a wad up Black Orc group, or you just don't go with Chosen and you go very light and mobile. Or maybe you do bring like a Chosen or two, but with shields to anchor, but you go very mobile with Gorby's Chariots and Chaos Knights and that sort of stuff. That's just my opinion there, but I do think that is something you should probably want to do as Chaos. Otherwise, the Chaos Warriors, of course, did some good work. The Marauders got some okay kills. One of the Knights got good kills. And the Hell Cannon had a glorious time sniping away my infantry for about the first third of the game. But then they did get shut down by the Nasty Skulkers, and that was that. But it really does show. Kill counts can't carry you through everything. If the Goblins, as long as they stick around, and as long as my leadership was around, I could win. And it did sort of show through in the long run. But yeah, definitely not a bad build idea. I just don't think it's what you want to be. I just don't think it's the way you want to approach the Greenskin matchup in general. Not a necessarily bad build against what I brought here. Regardless, though, well played to Hell 9000 here. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it entertaining. And if you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions, do not hesitate to post them down below. And I will do my very best to respond as soon as I can. I do thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.